Hello everyone, Dr. Spinach here. So today, let's talk about do's and don'ts in prescription writing. Now, um, I have piled these do's and don'ts up from different sources and also from relevant sources. So these are the things that are usually ignored by us as doctors when we are writing prescriptions. So these will be very important when you're preparing for your prescription writing in your PLAB-2 exam. So let's get started. Okay. The first and the very important thing is that we need to use black ink. The black ink that cannot be erased. That means we need to use only pen and not pencil. So no pencils are allowed, only pens are allowed. Okay. The second thing is we need to use only and only generic names instead of brand names. So that means you should not use augmentin for amoxicillin. So you need to use amoxicillin and clavulanic acid instead of augmenting, for example. Now, the next thing is abbreviations are not allowed. So remember when I say which abbreviations are not allowed while writing prescription? These are three abbreviations, and these are micrograms, nanograms and units. So micrograms, you should not write it as mcg, you should not write nanograms as ng, or units as only you should always write the complete units. Even if you think you don't have space, you still have to write the complete units. Okay. The abbreviations that are allowed are milligrams, you can write it as mg. Grams, you can write it as g. Milliliters, you can write it as ml or m capital L, but you should not write it as centimeter cube or cc. This is not accepted in the UK medical system. Only milliliter in ml or m capital L is accepted. For liters, you can use L or capital L. Okay. Now, the next thing is you should not use decimal points unnecessarily. So no use of unrequired decimal points. Now let's take an example. If you have to give 5 milligram of a drug, then you should not write it as 5.0 milligram. Rather, you should write it only as 5 milligram, because this can create confusion. Maybe the person who's giving the drugs, who's injecting or giving the drug to the patient, may think that this is 50, or maybe you forget the point. Who knows that, right? So that is why this is not allowed. This is the way you should write it. Now, if the drug has a very low dose, less than 1 milligram, for example, then you should not write it as zero point 0.8, but rather you should write it as 0.8, because if this point is invisible to the person who is prescribing the medication, they may give the wrong dose, that is the 8 milligram instead of zero point 0.8. Okay. And if you're prescribing a drug less than 1000 milligram, then you should always write it in milligrams rather than grams. So zero point 0.6 grams is not accepted, 600 milligrams is accepted. Okay. So these are what no the you should remember when to use decimal and when not to use the decimals. Now the next thing is check abbreviations for route of administration. So this is the something that you need to check on. Well, usually this is universally the same thing, but still check it on. Okay. So per oral PO, intravenous IV, subcutaneous S/C, and inhalational is INH. Okay. The next thing is the use of symbols. Now this is where which everything becomes very, very, very important. Now listen to me carefully. Now whenever we are writing a drug prescription, especially when we are talking about NHS drug prescription in PLAB-2 exam, okay, now when you are holding a drug, for a little while, let's say 1 or 2 days, okay, so you cross those dates in the drug chart. Okay, we'll look into it later on if we have time. Okay, now remember, you have to cross those in the drug chart if you're holding a drug. So now another symbol is tick. Now, tick is used to indicate the timing. So, if the timings are given morning, evening, or morning, midday, evening, or bad time, so you have to tick which timings the drug should be given. Okay. Now, I call it a sleeping tea, or you can call it a longitudinal T, whatever you like to call it. Now, this is something that we use to indicate that we have stopped this drug from then on. So you've given a drug for 2 days. Now you have to stop the drug for the rest of the days. So what you will do is you will use a sleeping tea there. Okay. The next thing is a box. Now, the box is used to review a medication before giving it. So, for example, in case of antibiotics, if you're given an IV antibiotic, that should be reviewed in 24 to 48 hours. So, before prescribing the medication further on, you should make a box on that medication, so that the nurse knows that this medication needs to be reviewed. The levels have to be checked before prescribing it. Okay, then I call it a zigzag line. This is basically used when you want to stop the drug that you're giving completely, but you have to write that drug and then make a zigzag line. Sorry, not a cross. Okay, then I call it zigzag plus error. Now, let's say when you're writing in a hurry any prescription, what happens is you made a mistake in dose or in the spelling of the drug. So what will happen in that case? In that case, you have to cut it down. So you don't use another prescription paper. What you do is you will make a zigzag line and write it error, and then of course sign it and write your GMC number and date. Okay, so this is what indicates the error. Now, so we've reached the sixth do's and don'ts. Now, the sixth is the symbol ones, which is the most confusing one for everyone. So that's what I've covered here. Now, the next one is these are other miscellaneous, very important points to remember. In the previous video, I described there is a section for regular medications and there is a section for antibiotics. Now, if you go back and see that regular medications do not have uh, do not need to be written in timing. So for example, in regular meds, there already are the drug rounds that are mentioned. For example, morning, midday, evening, and bedtime. So what you need to do is you only need to tick the timings that you need to give the drug on. And when we talk about antibiotics, there is nothing like morning, midday, evening, or bedtime when you go to the antibiotic prescription paper. So what you need to do is you need to write the specific time that you need to get the antibiotics for. So, and this timing should be in a 24-hour format. So remember, a 24-hour format. Okay. So what is a 24-hour format? So this will be basically, it will be something like this in a four number so indicated by four numbers. So 8 a.m. would be indicated by 0080, 1 p.m. 1300. So you need to know this. Okay, and so for regular meds, remember, this is also something which is important. Stop dates are usually not written. Well, I've written usually. There can be stop dates, but usually is something that you have to focus on. So normally stop dates are not written. So if you keep wondering that, oh my god, where is the stop date for this drug, so don't worry about it. Because why? Because this is a drug that is given regularly and it may be prescribed for lifetime. For example, statins or metformin, which is a diabetic drug. Okay, now, so stop dates are usually mentioned in these cases when there is a different loading or maintenance dose. Okay, or when the route of the drug has been changed. So dose for loading and maintenance is different. So you will have to write the stop dates for loading dose and then start with the maintenance dose. Now, in case the route of the drug is different. So for the first 2 days, 3 days, you gave IV, and then for the rest of the days, you need to give only oral. So in that case, also for the IV one, you have to write the stop date as well, isn't it? And so very related to this is in both of the above cases, that means loading, maintenance, and if the route of the drug is changed, you have to write the drug twice in the section. So what do I mean by that? You have to write the drug twice in the section. Means you have written a drug already once. So you have written clarithromycin once in one box. So you have to write it again in the other box. Why? Because now you have changed the route of drug. That's why. Okay. And finally, always, well, not finally, well, there are 9 do's and don'ts. I am really sorry about that. So always sign your name, sign Put your surname and your GMC number. So remember, never forget to sign, put your surname and GMC number. Okay. And finally, remember you have to write everything in block letters so that it is easily readable by the person who's gonna give these drugs to this patient. Okay. Well, I really wanted to tell about the symbols and everything over here, but we're really running out of time. So I'm just going to be very quick with this. So let's talk about the symbols first. So you remember that when I told you that cross is used for what? Cross is used for holding a drug. So you can see that clarithromycin is given IV for a while. Sorry, and this is only given for 2 days, right? So clarithromycin is given IV for 2 days, and then you have to hold this drug. You don't have to give it IV, but orally for the next time. So you have written it again because the route of the drug is changed. And now, because per oral should not be given on the 7th and 8th of October, so what you will do is you will cross this section here. So you can see you have crossed this section here, right? Now, as I already also told you, if the task mentions that it should be reviewed after some time, so what you have done here, what you have done here, you have made a box here, so you can see the box here and then written check levels before. So before prescribing clarithromycin as per oral 500 milligram here today in 9th of October at 8 a.m, the levels would be checked, the drug would be reviewed. Okay. And if you can see, this is the line, the sleeping tea that I have sketched here. This is for what? This is so that we have to now stop completely the IV dose, and because the oral dose has been started, right? Now, let's move on quickly to the rest of the symbols here. So you can see over here, this one. So you can see if you think this medication is no longer needed. So what you will do is you will just make a zigzag line over here. Okay. And then you will write, you will do your signature, write your name and the date and your GMC number. Similarly, when you have done an error, now what's the error here? Recognize the error. The error is that you have written everything in small letters instead of capital letters. This is a very common error that is done because we are in a hurry. So we don't really remember that we have to write it everything in block letters. So now it's okay. You have done an error. So what you will do? You will draw a zigzag line, write that it is an error, and finally sign, write your name, date, and GMC number. Yeah, so that is it for today's lesson. Now, there's one thing I need to tell you, that is I have created a Facebook group for a long time. So it used to be for PLAB-1, but now it's actually for both PLAB-1, PLAB-2, and OET preparation. So do go and check this out, PLAB preparation portal. I'll drop a link to this as well in the description. Okay. And now, if you have enjoyed my video, do not forget to like, subscribe, share, and do comment what you've learned. Okay. Thank you very much and take care. Bye bye.